the National Council for Elderly Bill, so that we avoid the complicated title of the bill, so that it provides very clearly that this is a bill that deals with the elderly and it creates a council. Honorable Speaker, if you look...
Timothy Toretich, just give me a minute. I would like to give an opportunity to the Honorable Chairperson, the Honorable Alice Nganga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Is it a point of information?
No, I just want to inform him. Point of information.
Okay, would you like to be informed by the Chairperson?
Yes.
You would like to be informed? Yes, proceed, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I just want to inform the member that, like I've said, when we come to the third reading, the committee went through the bill, and we have those amendments to the bill. And at that point, Honorable Member, we were going to address all where we found that the bill need to be amended. Thank you, including the title. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. So,
Chair, yeah, that is. I think that is in order, so that we can have the Council for Elderly bill instead of the geriatric bill. Chair, Honorable Speaker, for the avoidance of doubt, if you read Article 57 of the Constitution, which I said is very progressive, it provides very clearly, Honorable Speaker, that the state shall take measures to ensure the rights of older persons to fully participate in the affairs of society, to pursue their personal development, to live in dignity and respect, and to be free from abuse, and to receive reasonable care and assistance from their family and the state. So, Chair, Honorable Speaker, these are constitutional provisions that provides that the elderly are not in this country on their invitation. They are in this country by right. And Honorable Speaker, for the first time, if you read the clause 2 of this bill on interpretation, for the first time, elderly person has been defined to mean a person who has attained the age of 60 years for the first time. It has never been defined in the Constitution, but this bill for the first time defines who an elderly person is. So that if someone retires, then there is a law in place that has made specific provisions on the definition of their age, of elderly. Honorable Chair, elderly persons have suffered in this country in terms of pension. Look at this provision of clause 7B. It provides that this council shall handle matters through pensions. Honorable Speaker, I have had issues from my constituency. Teachers who have retired at the age of 60, but cannot get their pension until the age of 70 because of serious irregularities involving their employer. So, Chair, Honorable Speaker, if we have this council, then they can be able to fight and defend the interests of the elderly persons who cannot get their rights and benefits if they have retired from the public service. Honorable Speaker, I have also seen a very interesting provision that provides for child care, for the elderly care, so that elderly homes are set up and run by this council. Honorable Speaker, elderly persons in this country have suffered. Most of them are, when they retire, they go to the village, their children abandon them, and they end up living a miserable life. So, Chair, if we have this council, that means they can solicit for support. If the family cannot be able to take care of their elderly persons for one reason or another, then they shall have a home where they can retire as they await exit from planet Earth. Honorable Speaker, I support this bill, and I thank the honorable member for this very progressive piece of legislation.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Stephen Mogaka, member for West Mogirango. He seems to have stepped out. The Honorable Ruth Odinga, member for Kisumu County.
Thank you, Speaker. First of all, I'd like to thank my Honorable Chair, Honorable Chomba, for bringing up this bill, because this is a very important bill. And I think that it's high time that we did it. Myself, as a Ruth, I suffer from this very much. I have my auntie, the only sister to Mzee Jaramogi, who is 105 years old, and she suffered a stroke, and after 5 days, the doctor told me to take her home to wait for her death. Now, we didn't take her home, and I took her in my care, where she's still with me. She's now 106 years old, but I have to foot all the bills to make sure that we as a family have to foot that to make sure that she's still alive. She has fully recovered and is still going strong. This is one of the ladies who has been a hero in Kenya because she was there during the Mau Mau, and she has been one of the people who was being given even some monies owed to her because of the period that they were there during that period. Now, to me, the times are changing. Let's be realistic. We have got epidemics like in Nyanza, where we had very high prevalence of HIV/AIDS that took away a lot of our young people. And most of the homes that were there are remaining with old people who do not have anybody to take them, to look after them. This causes a case where you find that it's only the old elderly with the young children of the parents who were passed away, either through HIV or COVID, who are remaining in the village. Most of these young people are selling the homes and selling the land, to the point that you find that this elderly person is staying in a home where there's nowhere she can be able to support, or he can be able to support themselves in those villages. There's that neglect. And you don't have homes like in Europe, where you have these elderly homes where we can even take these elderly people to stay in. So to me, the bringing up of this bill is very, very timely for us to be able to see how can we support them. Number two is the dignity of these old people. We go to spaces where we have public spaces. When they go to the public hospitals or any place where they go to look for services, in most cases, they are kept waiting like any other ordinary person who is, or well person who is there. We need to see that how do we actually give them the space to continue having their dignity in these public places. And the other one is that the facilities that we need. Like, for example, when we wanted to get aids, or you want to get for them aids, like the aids they use for walking, the walking frame, the crutches, and all the aids that they need. These aids are not cheap. And in most cases, they don't get them free like they should in whatever, because when you're elderly, it doesn't mean that necessarily that you're sick and you should be treated as a sick person, but you could be disabled in the sense that you can't do the things you used to do, and you need this aid. And yet this aid is supposed to be bought. These elderly people do not even have the kind of money to buy this. So for me, I believe that this bill will bring a big change. And we must also say that now we are going to be having, and we do have more elderly people in the society, and this means that we need to look for ways that we are going to support these elderly people in the society. Therefore, for me, I do support this bill and think that it is a very necessary one. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Ainai Moi. Honorable Ambassador Benjamin Langat.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this bill. Madam Speaker, let me thank the mover of the bill for the research that she has done and be able to table the bill in this House. This bill, Madam Speaker, actually is under Article 57 of the Constitution. And I remember one member here has just said there are 3 categories of people where the Constitution has given special mention, but actually there are 4, Madam Speaker. There are the children, Madam Speaker, which we must take care of. We have persons with disabilities, which we have taken care of, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we also have the youth, which we have also taken care of. Madam Speaker, minorities and marginalized groups, Madam Speaker, which by and large we have also taken care of. Madam Speaker, I think all the members of the society are the only group that have not been taken care of by way of legislation or organization, Madam Speaker. So I want to say I support this bill. All the persons are members of our community. They have contributed to our society. They have contributed to our economy. They continue to contribute to our culture and so forth, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Kenya is where it is today because of the people who are the elderly of this country, Madam Speaker. And somebody has said we are also going to that direction, Madam Speaker. At that age, Madam Speaker, there are those who are lucky. They still have children who take care of them, Madam Speaker. Culturally, many of the communities will obligate the children to take care of their parents. But the society where we are today, Madam Speaker, is changing. Children are growing up, they are pursuing their career, they are pursuing their education. Some of them are actually going outside the country, Madam Speaker, leaving their parents behind. Madam Speaker, even though you might have fine parents who are well-to-do, they have land, they have money, Madam Speaker, but at that age, they are incapacitated, Madam Speaker. And therefore, we must have a framework that provides that the state can take care of them. I like the idea that we are forming a council that will actually pursue and follow the rights of these members of the society. Madam Speaker, even as we form the council, we must make sure that we put structures all the way up to the lower level where we can be able to identify the elderly, the vulnerable members of the society. So I want to thank the member and say I support. I think this house, we have continued to provide for monies to support the elderly, Madam Speaker. But I want to say, maybe this is the time we need to reconsider the amounts. This is the time we need to reconsider the criteria. I think with this council, we hopefully that they'll come with a criteria that really defines who is an elder person, at what age, and what criteria. Because I think what we have been using in the past, Madam Speaker, has been very discriminatory. You can find same people of the same age. One of them is enjoying the benefits, the other one is not enjoying the benefits. But I think it's high time that we harmonize so that all people of a certain category are given the same support, Madam Speaker. So I support the bill. I hope the committee will look at it, as has been said, including the name, the structures that will be formed. But by and large, Madam Speaker, I want to say I support. In fact, when time comes for voting for the funds to support the elderly, Madam Speaker, I will be the first one to support, because elder people are our senior members. Those of us who are Christians, we are called upon to respect your parents, to take care of our parents, so that our numbers, our age can be increased, Madam Speaker. So I totally support and look forward to taking care of the elderly people. I support.
Thank you, Abasanda. The Honorable Hilary Kosgei, member for Kipkelion West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I join my colleagues in congratulating the member for Githunguri, the Honorable Wamushomba, for coming up with this timely and progressive bill, Madam Speaker. At independence, Madam Speaker, the crafters and the founders of this republic were so concerned about building the new nation that they put a lot of energy in the youth, white-collar jobs, and other sectors of the economy, and forgot that they are the ones to get old in due course, Madam Speaker. And you have seen, Madam Speaker, recently, the people who fought for independence in this country, the Mau Maus, they have died a deplorable life, Madam Speaker, because of lack of bills that are progressive, that were to take care of them in their old age like this, Madam Speaker. And therefore, Madam Speaker, this is not only a call to the country. Madam Speaker, Gathoni Wamushomba is also responding to a biblical scripture in the book of Psalms, chapter 71, verse 6. Madam Speaker, where the psalmist says, "Cast me not in the time of my old age. Forsake me not when my strength fails. Madam Speaker, this is the age of the founders of the Republic of Kenya, those people who put on a lot of energy to build this nation. And this bill, Madam Speaker, is now forward-looking, to look at those who are aging after this, to take care of them. And when this is passed, Madam Speaker, we will be able to address issues that have been said by members, including the issue even of the stipends that the older people are getting, Madam Speaker. Because we know that this stipend, when it was first passed, it was based on a UN convention that does not allow anybody to live beyond $1 a day. And when that was done, Madam Speaker, the dollar was at 70 shillings. That is why when you multiply 70 by 30, you get 2,100. Right now, the dollar is way over 150. These monies should be the same level at below $1 a day, where nobody is supposed to live. This board, that when it comes to effect, will always be reminding government and the legislators and the people of the Republic of Kenya that nobody should live below $1 a day. And Madam Speaker, when you go to the West, the elderly are not even bothered about their children because they established bills that took care of their old age when they were still young, Madam Speaker. And therefore, when you are in the US, when someone gets aged, he has money and stipends and all this, and they can admit themselves even to the elderly homes and live a good life, awaiting their maker to call them Madam Speaker. So a lot of concerns, Madam Speaker, that have been raised by members here will be taken care during the Committee of the Whole, where we will seek to amend the bill to capture not a more scientific name like the geriatric bills, but a name that is easily understood by the people of Kenya. But by and large, Madam Speaker, I seek to support this bill and say that it is progressive and it is timely. It is going to create a more happy and a prosperous Kenya, especially for the aged. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support.
Thank you. The Honorable Mary Emase, member for Teso South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also want to, first of all, appreciate Honorable Mchomba. Let's applaud her for this very good bill that she's brought before the House that seeks to create or establish a council for the elderly persons. Indeed, Madam Speaker, even in the absence of Article 57, the Constitution does prohibit discrimination on the basis of age or otherwise. So it is actually a right, and it's an obligation to the state not only to protect the elderly people, but to promote and encourage initiatives, including financing programs that address the welfare of the elderly persons. Madam Speaker, establishing a council, I think, is the right thing to do, because as Honorable Amchomba has rightfully put it, the youth have a council. Persons with disability have a council. When we have a body corporate dedicated to addressing the issues of a special group, then we are bound to, get maximum attention and therefore we'll be able to see results. And therefore, I believe this will enable the elders to be appropriately represented in all spheres of life, especially on areas that affect them. In decisions that are being made by boards, by government, in areas that affect the elderly people will be able to be represented adequately by the council, especially areas health, physical planning, their social welfare issues, among others. Madam Speaker, I would want to even appeal to the proposer, to the owner of the bill, that this bill should be made more comprehensive, more workable and acceptable. Because when we look at the elderly people in our community, most of them have been abandoned. The children have migrated to the cities to look for opportunities. There is nobody to take care of them. Probably this bill should also accommodate the aspect of developing a structure, the council to be able to develop a structure where even families, there is some incentivizing of the families to be able to support, to be able to provide that necessary support for the elderly people, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, even when we look at the elderly people, that is from the age of 60 and above, these are people who are still very strong, very energetic, with vast experiences, because they are from employment opportunities, from businesses, and with vast knowledge and experience. Probably also this bill should provide for how government can leverage on these experiences that our elderly people have, so that they remain active, participating in activities that promote their social well-being, instead of just abandoning these elderly people. As soon as they get out of active employment, they are abandoned, they are forgotten, and yet they can still be very useful to the society. Madam Speaker, also, I believe this council would be able to develop a structure, a proper structure on how the social welfare funds, the stipends that our elderly people are given, can be disbursed to the elderly people. Because we've had challenges. Some of them with the money, especially when they get the arrears, when it gets to 4 months, 8,000 shillings. It is taken away from them before they even get to their homes. So, or the agents who have been given the responsibility by government to disburse these funds, there have been challenges. I've had to deal with that in my own constituency in Teso South, where I had to take it upon myself, go to the banks, go to the agents, threaten to report them to the police. Then they begin to say, you know, the fingerprints was not working, I don't know what, we will pay them, and then eventually actually they go to be paid their monies. So with the council, they will be able to put proper structures, proper audit structures, and therefore it will promote accountability in the disbursement of these funds. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the Honorable Mchomba for bringing up this proposal, this bill, before the House. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Dick Maungu, member for Luanda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity given so that I can also share and give my ideas to the same. Allow me to appreciate the author of the bill for an idea well thought about, an idea that is timely, and an idea that comes to fill a gap that does exist within our legislation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the elderly, it's always said that old is gold. But in Kenya, we have not been able to treat our elderly as gold. And that has resulted as a result of a gap in our legislation. Article 57 of our Constitution is very clear about the rights of the elderly. But as captured by earlier people who've discussed, we've not been able to come up with a legislation that can give life to Article 57 of our Constitution, whereby the elderly are treated with respect, the elderly are given dignity. Madam Speaker, we live in this country and we have seen many times that these elderly have been neglected by their children, by their relatives, and even the state. In some instances, we've seen these elderly being taunted as witches and what have you, Madam Speaker, and therefore tortured. This piece of legislation will go a long way in trying to address that gap, because we find that many of the times, after their productive years, these people are left to fend themselves. After the productive years, the bones are tired, the muscles are tired, and these people are actually weak. When you look at this bill, Madam Speaker, it is going to address a myriad or a number of issues that we feel have been exposing these people. Looking at the recent census that was done in 2019, Madam Speaker, Kenya's population, currently we can say it's around 50 million. 2.9% or 3% of these people
are people who are 60 years and above. A group of people that has been neglected, a group of people that no one cares about them. The world of today, our young people are busy chasing after the Kenya shilling, which is so rare, Madam Speaker, and therefore live in towns and forget their elderly parents back in the villages. And therefore, having this bill address that gap, Madam Speaker, will go a long way in having the elderly's rights being respected. Recently, we were trying to have them registered for what we call the elderly, some token, Madam Speaker. And we saw masses of people come to have themselves registered. But as much as they came, Madam Speaker, for the 2,000 they get per month, it may be too little, yes, but at least it is something better than nothing, Madam Speaker. Besides that, we find that these people have got huge bills, medical bills that they need to take care of. These people, some of them live in very deplorable conditions. Houses with leaking roofs, sometimes without food, without medical attention, without warm clothing, Madam Speaker, and therefore find that their rights are actually trampled upon. And therefore, to me, this bill comes in to address a big, big gap that does exist, and therefore say that I rise to support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Joseph Munyoro, member for Kigumo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I would like to congratulate my elder sister, Nikuno Kuruka, for coming up with this bill.
Better health. So, Honorable Speaker, I would like to call upon the House to put money into research on longevity of life, because this is the next biggest industry, and it is possible that other doctors of the world are putting money in it. Dr. Sinclair is putting money in it in the United States of America. We have doctors in the UK who are putting money into ensuring that people take longer time to be more productive before they get to a situation where they cannot run, they cannot walk. So as I support this bill, I would like to thank the government for ensuring that the money for the elderly is coming in a regular manner. But I would also like to call for increment of that money, because 2,000 shillings, Honorable Speaker, with the current economic situation, cannot really buy much. So if this money can be enhanced so that they are able to buy something, or even buy more so their medication, this will be a move in the right direction. So congratulations, Honorable Nikuno Kuruka, and thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me a chance to put my voice in this.
I'm made to understand that Naomi Wako, although her name appears on the screen, had already seconded this motion, so we'll have to go to the Honorable Beatrice Kemei.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance to be able to contribute to this very, very important bill. However, when I looked at the bill in the screen, the title, I was not able to get exactly what it was talking about. But having looked at it critically, talking about the establishment of the National Council for Elderly Persons, I started to appreciate more. So let me start to thank Honorable Wamuchomba for bringing this bill, and I believe it will go through. Honorable Speaker, elderly people are very, very important people in our society. Those are our mothers, those are our fathers, those are our grandparents. These are the carriers of wisdom. These are the people who bless the young ones. These are the people even who give names to our children. These are the people who also educate us on matters, culture. And these are the people who even foresee what will come, even in future. And for this, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that it is very important for us to have the council to be established, knowing that we already have the Youth Council, we have a council for people living with disability and many others. But when it comes to the elderly, we didn't have council for that. So today, I'm very, very happy, and I thank Mheshimiwa for bringing this bill on board. Honorable Speaker, the elderly people have been discriminated on in many occasions. Going to public places, knowing that our generation at the moment do not remember and do not know the values that we knew when we were young and even now. That should you see an elderly person coming forth and you are seated, you move aside, you stand, and then they sit. But for our people, that is not the case. And I would want to say that this bill would not discriminate on them when it comes to matters health. Going to in hospital, going to a ward, a 17-year-old is in the same ward with a 65 or 70-year-old. That one is not the best thing, Honorable Speaker, and this bill, I believe, will take care of it. And knowing that these elderly people at the moment receive stipend, and I want to really thank the government for making it possible to make sure that every month the elderly people get their stipend. However, this amount, the 2,000, is still very low, and I plead that as things improve, this amount needs to be increased, and to make sure also that all the elderly persons are registered and they are supported. And this will also ease the dependency ratio of our people. And Honorable Speaker, many of the able age, that is the working age, have a burden to take care of the children and now the elderly. So this one will ease their issue when the elderly are taken care of. Honorable Speaker, I would also say that the elderly people needs their basic needs, that is food, clothing, shelter, and they also need security, Honorable Speaker. Looking at this, I'm a very happy person to note of this bill where we are talking about the prohibition of the abuse of the elderly people. Should this be physical or even sexually? I'm aware of many elderly women who have been abused sexually, and that one pains a lot, Honorable Speaker. So this bill will take care of that. And knowing that these elderly people also, some of them are very strong, that they are very useful in our societies. They can still do many of the chores in the homes. They can still do, maybe get a source of income, and therefore they need to be supported and they need to be encouraged, Honorable Speaker. And I would also say that looking at this bill, the priority areas needs to be taken care of, and this is where the budget comes in. More budget for the same representation, like the legal representation, so that if they have issues to do with land or any of their property, knowing that each and every person in this country is free to own any property. The elderly also are having that in mind, they own property, but sometimes, Honorable Speaker, their property is taken away. So at least when we have the legal representation for the same, it will be very, very easy for these elderly people. So, Honorable Speaker, I support this one, and I pray that the title can be made in a way that it will be very easy for people to understand. Otherwise, it is qualifying the Article 57 of the Constitution. And once more, I say thank you very much, Honorable Wamuchomba, for bringing in this bill. Asante sana.
The Honorable Madam Rueda, followed by the Honorable Maina Madenge.
Asante Bwana Spika kunipatia nami nafasi nichangie kwa hili baraza la kitaifa la wazee. Wazee ni baraka. Tunaelewa vizuri kwamba wazee wamefanya kazi wakaja wakastaafu. Lakini wao wamestaafu kwa sababu ya miaka tu kuambiwa wastaafu. Lakini tumbo halistaafu. Tumbo lata kuangaliwa vile vile kila siku. So kuna haja kubwa ya kuangaliwa hawa wazee na kupangiwa mipango mizuri ili wazee hao wetu wawe ni baraka kwetu, isiwe ni usumbufu kwetu. Bwana Spika, wazee ni wale watu wanafaa kuchukua kuwa kwamba wamefanya kazi za nguvu, kupoteza nguvu zao, wanafaa kuangaliwa vizuri, ni wakati wao waangaliwe. Aweza kuwa watoto wakapata huo muda kuangalia, na waweza kupata watoto wakorofi wasiwe na au hakupata mafunzo vizuri, au wakashikana na mambo mengine wasiangalie wazazi wao. Itakuwa ni jukumu la serikali kuangalia hawa wazee, isiwe wamewekwa kwenye vipembe au wamefungiwa kwenye nyumba. Wazee wakati huo ndo tunaona wazee wengine wanatembea. Ukienda Masai Mara, nimefanya kazi Masai Mara miaka 13. Wageni wengi na beba ni wazee. Wakati huo ndo wamekuja kutembea, pengine wamekuja na wajukuu wao, au wamekuja wao wenyewe vizere viwili pengine vimekuja kutembea. Huku kwetu mambo kama hayo huyapati. Unapata vizere hivyo ni vigonjwa, viko nyumbani, wamefanya kazi ngumu. Kama kule kwetu Lamu Mashariki, wazee wetu walifanya kazi ngumu sana. Manake kazi za kule ni kwenda baharini. Uende baharini, uende ukavute juya. Kuvuta juya ni unavuta kamba mpaka mikono inashika ngudi. So wazee wale wakiwa wazee wanakuwa wanahitaji matibabu mengi tofauti. Lakini wazee wetu kusema kweli walifanya kazi nzito na wanafaa kupata matibabu. Sasa hasa wale watu wangu wa Lamu Mashariki matibabu hawapati, kwa sababu sisi hospitali ya rufaa ambayo iko karibu kwetu ni Kenyatta Hospital. Utoke Mzee wa Kiunga, Ishakani, Mkokoni, Ndao, Kiwayu, Chandani, kutoka huko ndio nimesema wodi moja. Watoke kule mwisho waje hospitali ya rufaa ambayo inaitwa level 6 ni hapa Kenyatta Hospital. Tunafaa kuangalia zaidi. Mimi naunga mkono sana, kwa sababu najua wale wangu wanaumia zaidi. Kama kuna wengine wanaumia, basi wangu wanaumia zaidi. Bwana Spika, kuna culture au dasturi za watu wengine au kitamaduni, wanachukua wazee wanawafanya sasa kama ambaye washamaliza kazi yao, hawafai tena. Hizo ni laana, na serikali inafaa iangalie kwa karibu wale watoto ambao haangalii wazazi wao, au jamii pia ambao hawapendi wazee. Hiyo mambo ya kusema mzee ni mchawi, hiyo ishtakiwe na itukuliwe adhabu kali wapatiwe. Mambo hayo yanatokea sehemu zingine. Mtu amekuzaa, amekulea, amekufanyia mambo yote, kisha unaja kusema ni mchawi kwa sababu pengine wataka ardhi yake, kwa sababu pengine watoto wake wamekushinda, unasema mzee ni mchawi. Tunataka serikali katika hiyo pia iwekwe mambo ya kuwahifadhi hao wazee, ya kuwasaidia, ili mambo kama hayo mtu akifanya mmoja iwe funzo kwa wengine asiweze kufanya tena. Hii kumwita inasikitisha. Yani mzee, sisi tunaambiwa, tunafundishwa tuheshimu mpaka wazee wa wengine majirani zaidi hata kushinda wako. Kisha mtu upate mtu anamuita mzee mchawi, itakuwa yeye mwenyewe ndiye mchawi huyo. So itabidi katika council hii au baraza hili liangalie mbinu mbali na mambo ya matibabu, na mbinu ya kuwafanya wazee au itumike kama fida. Wanawake washtaki na wafatilizie kesi moja, ili iwe funzo kwa wengine, ili wazee wetu nao wapate heshima, wazee wetu nao waishi kama wengine. Bwana Spika, mimi kuna wakati nilienda Singapore, niliwahi kuona wazee wanatunzwa kwa mpangilio mwingine. Kazi za taxi dereva wa taxi zote zilikuwa ziko na wazee. Ukipanda gari unaona ni wazee. Hao wazee mkienda ukiweka nyumbani kwa sababu ya miaka, mfano miaka 60 yeye astaafu, unaenda kumwambia aende akakae, kama hajajipanga vizuri, hana biashara, hana mambo mengi, unaenda kumwambia kaa ungoje kifo au kaa ungoje kupewa. Kwa nini kusiwe na mipango ya hawa wazee wakapawa ile hope, yani kuwapa na wao wajue, wape moyo kwamba baada ya kustaafu kuna mengine unaweza fanya. So kwa mtindo huu inaweza pangiwa mambo fulani mazuri ambao wazee kila wakati watakuwa wakienda na wakiendelea na maisha. Bwana Spika, nimelitangulia kusema kwamba wazee ni baraka, na wazee wanastaafu lakini tumbo halistaafu. Kwa hivyo nataka niombe kuwe na mikakati ambayo itachukua hawa wazee ili waendelee kufanya kazi hata kama ndogo ndogo, kama wamekosa zile kazi zingine, lakini wapewe kazi zingine wakiendelea, wakingojea. Manake sisi tunaambiwa watu wanaona kama ni baada after 60 ndio wanaenda wanakaa wangoje kufa. Kufa ni ya Mungu. Sisi mzee anaweza kufa kijana, anaweza kufa mzee. Lakini tukiwaacha tu wakae hivyo haitawasaidia. Asante Bwana Spika.
The MP for Nyeri Town, Madenge, followed by the MP for Buri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to add my voice to congratulate the Honorable Gathoni Wamoshoba for the timely presentation in the Parliament of this bill to give life to Article 57 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, however, when we look at holistically at the kind of life that the elderly people are living in our country, and especially those who have served our government in different capacities in the past, the saddest story is the story of teachers who taught and retired during the Moi era, and up to now, their pensions have never been paid. A lot of them have passed on, waiting for these pensions. And this framework provides for a firm and solid way of dealing with some of these issues. The second area, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of food and nutrition security for our elderly people. That with age, they are over their productive years. And therefore, as a country, we have a duty of care to them. And therefore, the issue of providing food, even as we provide relief food, the question of how organized we are as a country in providing not only just food to fill the stomach, but food that is able to respond to the nutritional needs of our elderly people. The other area, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of health services. We know that with age, the health expenditures and health bills drastically increase. At that age, most of these people are suffering from the non-communicable diseases, which are much more difficult and much more expensive to treat. A provision within the requirements of provision of health services to support them with expensive drugs for diabetes, hypertension, eye treatment, and mobility aids for those with arthritis is an area that we can expand in the bill. Mr. Speaker, a lot of our people at that age, the elderly, are also living in very deplorable conditions. The provision of shelter for our people, and especially now that we have these affordable housing projects, the affordable housing program should also be specifically tailor-made to respond to the needs of our elderly. Mr. Speaker, the other saddest part is the kind of times that our elderly people have to spend in the corridors of justice when they are pursuing succession and land cases. And again, this is an area where this bill can be improved to provide explicit provisions, including timelines for when cases involving the elderly must be dealt with and concluded within our corridors of justice. So once again, I want to congratulate Honorable Wamoshoba, and I support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The MP for Buri, followed by the MP for Bondo.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Followed by the MP for Central.